It happened again. You walked into the room and felt it. That strange silence, that stare. A married man with a ring on his finger, completely paralyzed by his presence. He tries to disguise it but fails miserably. And the question that doesn't want to be silent is, what the hell is going on? Here's the brutal truth that no one tells you. It's not about you. At least, not in the way you imagine. Carl Jung discovered something so disturbing about the male mind that it completely changes the game. When a married man can't resist you, he's under the control of psychological forces that even he doesn't understand. You've become something much more powerful than just an attractive woman. There is a hidden mechanism at work, a desperate psychological need that you have accidentally activated in it. What you will discover in the next few minutes is so revealing, so profound, that it will forever change how you interpret every look, every gesture, every unspoken word. Get ready. The truth is darker than you think. 1. He's not seeing you. He's seeing something else. The first thing you need to understand is that when this man looks at you, his eyes capture your image, but his mind is seeing something completely different. Jung called it projection, and it is one of the most powerful phenomena of the human psyche. Basically, he is putting in you characteristics, qualities, and aspects that exist only inside his head. You have become a blank canvas where he paints his own unfulfilled desires. Within each man, there is an internal feminine image that Jung called the anima. It's like an invisible mold formed since childhood, influenced by his mother, by his first crushes, by the movies he watched, by the stories he heard. This image carries everything he considers feminine, mysterious, fascinating. And when you appear, for some specific reason in your way of being, of speaking, of moving, you activate this dormant image within you. The interesting thing is that this is not necessarily related to your physical appearance. It can be a gesture, a laugh, the way you tilt your head when you hear someone, the tone of your voice, some tiny detail that resonates with that internal image of him so accurately that he is completely captured. It's as if you accidentally typed in the secret password to his emotional vault. And here's the most important part. He has no conscious control over it. It is not a rational choice. Projection happens at the level of the unconscious, in that deep place in the mind where all the memories, emotions, and images that it doesn't even know exist. That's why he looks so confused, so disarmed, because he really is. His reaction is automatic, primitive, visceral. Often, this image he projects on you represents exactly what is missing in his life right now. If marriage has become predictable, you can represent mystery. If the wife is practical and rational, you can embody sensitivity and emotion. If his life is plastered with responsibilities, you can symbolize freedom and spontaneity. But beware, all this is in his head. You may be completely different from what he imagines. The projection is so strong that he begins to create a version of himself that only exists in his imagination. He attributes to you qualities that you may not even have. He thinks that you would understand him in ways that no one else does. Imagine deep conversations that never happened. It builds a whole elaborate fantasy where you are the answer to something that he doesn't even know what the question is. Jung said that when we do not integrate our own psyche, we end up looking outside for what should be inside. This man probably repressed parts of himself to fit into the role of husband, professional, provider, and all these repressed parts are now being projected onto you. You have become the living symbol of all that he has abandoned to be who others expected him to be. The most fascinating thing is that the less he knows you, the stronger the projection. The farther away you remain, the more perfect the image he has created. Because reality has defects, contradictions, complexities, but the costume can be impeccable. That's why these men are often obsessed precisely with women with whom they have never had real intimacy. Distance keeps the magic intact. 2. What's missing in his marriage and why you showed up? No one likes to admit it, but every marriage over time develops dead zones. They are those aspects of life and personality that simply cease to be nurtured. In the beginning, everything is intense, everything is new, everything is possible. But the years go by and the relationship settles into certain patterns. Some emotional needs get abandoned along the way. And it is exactly in this void that you appear as a ray of light passing through a dark window. Jung understood that no human being can satisfy all the psychological needs of another. It's impossible. Each person is a complex universe of desires, fears, dreams, and needs. When two universes come together in marriage, some orbits align perfectly, but others are eternally out of step. And these misaligned areas start to hurt over time. They begin to pulse, They start screaming for attention. Perhaps in his marriage, communication became purely functional. Conversations about bills, about children, about what to do on the weekend. No depth, no vulnerability. None of those exchanges that make you feel really seen and understood. And then you come up and ask a simple, genuinely interested question. And suddenly he feels heard in a way that he hasn't felt in years. Or perhaps sex life has become mechanical, routine, even non-existent. Not necessarily for lack of love, but because desire is a delicate plant that dies when it is not cultivated, and you emerge with an energy, a vitality, a sparkle in your eyes that rekindles in him something he thought had died forever. You haven't done anything on purpose, but your mere presence reminds him that you're still a sexual being, that you can still feel that tingling down your spine. There is also the issue of recognition. Over time, it's common for partners to stop really seeing each other. He becomes only the husband, she becomes only the wife. People have become roles, functions, parts of a structure. And then you arrive and look at it not as a function, but as a person. You laugh at his jokes. You are impressed by his stories. You make him feel interesting again. Jung believed that we all have a need for individuation, which is the process of becoming who we really are. But marriage, especially when there are children and heavy responsibilities, often forces people to freeze important parts of themselves. That guy who loved to play guitar doesn't play anymore. That dreamer who wanted to travel the world is stuck in a suffocating routine, and you, for some reason, represent the possibility of finding those lost parts again. A wife may be wonderful, but she may represent security and stability. And security, while necessary, can be numbing. It can numb the soul. You, on the other hand, represent the unknown, the adventure, the risk. You are the reminder that life can still surprise, that he can still surprise himself. Often what is missing is not love. It's existential excitement. It's that feeling of being really alive, of feeling your heart racing, of having butterflies in your stomach, feelings that he associates with you now but that are actually his. They are parts of him that were asleep and that his presence woke up. You didn't create those feelings. You just brought up what was already there, hungry, waiting for an opportunity to breathe again. If this video helped you understand what's really happening beneath the surface, it's because you've touched something deep in the unconscious. In the pinned comment, you'll find the Jung Method, a guide to stop repeating hidden emotional patterns. 3. The woman he never had the courage to be. Now get ready, because this part will seem strange at first, but it makes perfect sense once you understand Jungian theory. Inside every man there is a woman. Not literally, but psychologically. Jung discovered that we all carry characteristics of the opposite sex within our psyche. In men, this inner feminine aspect is the anima. And when a man does not integrate his own femininity, when he completely represses this side, something curious happens. He begins to obsessively look for these qualities in the women around him. Since he was little, this man probably heard that men don't cry, that men don't show weakness, that men have to be strong, rational, provider. Everything that society considers feminine has been systematically torn away from him. Sensitivity has become something shameful. Intuition has been replaced by cold logic. The ability to connect emotionally has been exchanged for productivity and results. And all those parts that he had to kill to be accepted as a man are now rotting in the basement of his soul. When you show up, something magical happens. You naturally express everything that has been forbidden to him. Maybe you're spontaneous while it's in a cast. Maybe you're emotionally open while he's closed. Maybe you're creative and artistic while he's stuck on spreadsheets and numbers. And seeing you live freely these qualities, he feels a deep envy, a magnetic attraction, because you're living the life that a part of him has always wanted to live. This explains why sometimes extremely rigid and controlled men are fascinated by free and unpredictable women. It's not just physical attraction. It's his soul screaming to find the lost parts again. It is his unconscious desperately trying to regain his balance. Jung called this the search for wholeness, for the complete integration of the personality. Many men spend their entire lives wearing a mask. The mask of the competent professional, the responsible father, the stable husband. Jung called this mask a persona. It is the character you represent to the world. But behind the mask there is a real, complex, nuanced person, and that real person has needs that the mask does not allow to satisfy. He has dreams that the mask considers foolish. He has desires that the mask deems inadequate. You, without knowing it, have become the mirror that reflects everything that exists behind his mask. When he's close to you, the mask starts to crack. He laughs more genuinely. He talks about things he doesn't normally talk about. He acts in ways that surprise even himself. Because you activate the real person, not the character, and this is both liberating and terrifying for him. The point is that he never learned to integrate these qualities considered feminine in a healthy way. No one taught you that being sensitive doesn't make you less of a man. That crying is not weakness. That having intuition is a strength, not a flaw. So these characteristics were orphaned within him, with no place to exist. And now seeing you, he realizes how much he has impoverished his own life by denying half of himself. It has a Jungian concept called conjunctio, which is the union of opposites within the psyche. When we manage to integrate our inner masculine and feminine side, we become complete whole people. But most never do this work, and then they look outside for what should be inside. This man looks at you and sees salvation, completeness, because you seem to carry what he has rejected in himself. The saddest thing is that as long as he doesn't do the inner work of rescuing his own femininity, of embracing his sensitivity, his creativity, his vulnerability, he will continue to project it onto other women. You may be today, but tomorrow will be another. Because what he really seeks is not in any person. It is inside it, waiting to be recognized and integrated. But this is a path that he needs to walk alone, and most men don't even know that this path exists. 4. Why you awaken what your wife can't. Let's talk about something delicate but essential. It's not about you being better than his wife. It's not competition. It's about psychological dynamics and about how long-term relationships inevitably change how people see themselves. The wife may be amazing, but she is caught in a web of familiarity that makes it almost impossible to awaken certain things in him. And you, precisely because you are outside this web, have a power that it lost a long time ago. Jung was talking about the concept of mystical participation, which is that psychological fusion that happens in very intimate relationships. At first it is wonderful, but over time it can become a prison. The couple begins to function almost as a single entity. They know what the other is going to say before they speak. They know every gesture, every reaction, and while this brings comfort and security, it also kills the mystery. And without mystery, the attraction languishes. His wife knows him all too well. She's seen all sides of him, including the less attractive ones. She saw him sick, she saw him fail, she saw him afraid, she saw him being petty. She knows his smells, the noises he makes while sleeping, the annoying quirks. He knows the deep insecurities, the hidden weaknesses. And while this knowledge can generate deep love, it also destroys idealization. And men especially need to feel idealized on some level to feel wanted. You, on the other hand, are an enigma. He does not know his quirks, his defects, his contradictions. For him, you are still an open possibility, not a closed reality. You can be anything in his imagination. The wife is concrete, solid, real. You are nebulous, fluid, magical. And the human mind always finds more fascinating what it cannot completely decipher. There is also the issue of looking. The wife looks at him with the eyes of someone who sees a husband, a father, a joint bank account partner. It is a look that carries history, responsibilities, expectations. When she looks, she sees the man who forgot to do this or that, who promised to fix something months ago. You look at it with fresh eyes. No history, no baggage, no charges. And in that clean look, he finds a version of himself that he had forgotten existed. Routine is another silent killer. Marriage creates inevitable patterns. Always the same subjects, the same places, the same dynamics. He knows exactly how his wife will react to anything he says. There are no surprises. There are no findings. With you, every conversation is virgin territory. Every interaction brings the possibility of something unexpected. And the human brain is addicted to novelty. Dopamine skyrockets when there's something new, and plummets when everything is predictable. Jung also talked about the concept of shadow in the dynamics of relationships. Over time, partners begin to see mostly each other's shadows, the negatives, the flaws. The wife sees in him the guy who doesn't help enough at home, who is always tired, who has lost that sparkle in his eyes. You still see only the light because you don't live with its shadow. And being seen only by light is incredibly seductive. It also has the weight of accumulated disappointment. Every wedding collects small frustrations over the years. Unfulfilled promises, unfulfilled expectations, dreams that fell by the wayside. The wife carries this file of disappointments every time she looks at it. You don't have any files. You are a blank page where he can write a new story without the mistakes of the past. Finally, you represent the possibility of transformation. With his wife, he is who he has always been. The standards have been set for years. Changing would require reconfiguring the entire relationship dynamic, which is extremely difficult. With you, he can imagine being different. You can fantasize about being the best version of yourself. You become the portal to an alternate life where he does not carry the weight of all his mistakes and limitations, and that's too powerful to resist. 5. The hole in his soul that you seem to fill. There is an emptiness within every human being that Jung spent hours trying to describe and understand. It is not a void that comes from something specific that happened. It is an existential emptiness, something that is part of the human condition itself. It's that feeling of incompleteness that something fundamental is missing, even when you seemingly have it all. And this married man, with his structured life and his responsibilities fulfilled, carries this hole in his soul. Until you show up and in some inexplicable way the emptiness seems smaller. Adulthood, especially for men who have followed the expected social script, can be brutally empty of meaning. Waking up, working, paying bills, fulfilling obligations, sleeping, repeating, where's the magic in that? Where's the transcendent purpose? Where's that feeling of being really alive that he had in his 20s? Everything was sacrificed on the altar of responsibility. And now he looks at his own life and wonders if that's all there is to it. Jung called this a crisis of meaning. It happens when the person realizes that they have built a life that works on the outside, but that does not feed the soul on the inside. He has the house, the car, the family, the stable job, but he feels a corrosive void that none of these achievements can fill. It's as if he's forgotten who he really is in the process of becoming who he's supposed to be. You emerge as an injection of meaning. Suddenly he wakes up thinking about you. The day has color again. He grooms himself more carefully. He pays attention to details that he hasn't paid attention to for years. Life takes on a cinematic quality, as if he had finally left black and white and entered color film. You've given him something to look forward to, something that makes his heart beat faster, and that's addictive. Many men reach their 40s, 50s and realize that they never really lived. They just existed. They complied with the protocol. They did what was expected. And now they look back and see a gray landscape of obligations fulfilled but dreams never pursued. You represent the chance, even if illusory, to still have a different life, to still experience something true, intense, real. There is also a specific emotional hole. Many men grew up without learning how to deal with complex emotions. They were taught to repress, to swallow, to move on, and all this unprocessed emotional life is rotting inside them, creating a void that hurts but that they don't even know how to name. When you show some form of emotional understanding, when you offer that listening that he never had, it's like you're touching a wound that no one ever recognized existed. Jung believed that we all seek what he called the self, the true center of personality, the totality of being. But most live only on the surface, in the persona, in the social mask. The self is forgotten, buried under layers of expectations and social roles, and this distancing from the center itself creates a frightening void. You in some mysterious way seem to connect him with something deeper within himself. It seems to awaken that which was dormant. There is also the hole of lost passion. Remember what it was like to be in love? That intensity, that sweet obsession, that feeling that the whole world was conspiring in favor of love. He hasn't felt this in decades. The relationship with the wife can have love, companionship, partnership, but there is no longer that fire that makes you feel completely alive. And you brought the fire back. Unintentionally, unplanned, you rekindled something he thought had died. Another aspect is the emptiness of male purpose. Historically, men found meaning in achievements, in challenges, in struggles. But modern life has tamed this. There are no dragons to kill, no territories to explore, just endless meetings and emails that never stop coming. You have become the dragon, not literally but symbolically. You are the challenge, the impossible achievement, the one that brings back the sense of mission. Even if it is a completely inadequate mission, Jung said that the emptier a person's inner life is, the more he will seek to fill this emptiness with external intensity. Adventures, risks, passions. This man is trying to heal an internal wound with an external remedy, and you became the medicine. But here's the problem, you can't heal his emptiness. No one can. This is an internal work that only he can do. As long as he does not delve into his own depths, until he faces his demons and makes peace with his shadow, he will continue to seek salvation in the wrong people. 6. When you become his forbidden dream. There is something wickedly powerful in the forbidden fruit. Jung understood that the human psyche has a complicated relationship with limits and prohibitions. When something is forbidden, it automatically becomes more desirable. The unconscious mind doesn't like to be controlled. And the more you try to suppress an impulse, the stronger it gets in the shadows. And you, precisely because you are inaccessible, because you are outside the limits allowed by his life, have become immensely more powerful in his imagination than you would be in any other circumstance. If he was single and you were available, maybe the attraction would be normal, manageable, but the ring on his finger transforms everything. Suddenly, you're not just an interesting woman. You are the symbol of everything he cannot have, and the human being desperately wants what he cannot have. It is a primitive, irrational, but incredibly strong mechanism. The prohibition does not diminish desire. It multiplies it. It also has the component of transgression. This man probably spent his whole life being righteous, responsible, doing the right thing, and a part of him is exhausted from all this correction. A part of him wants to break the rules, experience danger. See what happens when you jump the fence. You represent this possibility of transgression. You are his chance to be, even if only in fantasy, someone who is not a slave to the rules. Jung talked about the shadow, that part of us that contains everything we deem unacceptable in ourselves. The more someone tries to be perfect, correct, irreproachable, the bigger the shadow becomes. And the shadow is hungry. She wants to live. She wants to express herself. She wants to have her moment on stage. When he looks at you, it's not just romantic or sexual desire. It's his shadow screaming for recognition. It's the dark part of him finally wanting to breathe. Marriage, for many men, means the death of certain possibilities. It means accepting that life has taken a specific turn and that other directions will no longer be explored. It is a silent grief that few admit. The mourning of lost freedom, of adventures not lived, of other lives that could have been. You awake in this grief. You are the living reminder of all the choices not made, of all the paths not taken. Fantasy is always more perfect than reality, because in fantasy, there are no consequences. He can imagine being with you without imagining the guilt, without imagining the destruction of the marriage, without imagining the pain in the eyes of the children. His mind automatically edits the bad parts and leaves only the pleasure, the excitement, the adventure. That is why forbidden dreams are so seductive. They offer reward at no cost, at least in the universe of imagination. There is a concept that Jung explored called enantiodromia, which is when something turns into its opposite. The more he tries to suppress his desire for you, the more obsessive that desire becomes. The more he tells himself that it is wrong to think of you, the more you occupy his mind. What he resists persists, and it grows, and it becomes monstrous. Prohibition fuels obsession like oxygen fuels fire. You have also become the gateway to an alternate identity. In his mind, if he were with you, he would be a different man. Braver, more passionate, more alive. You represent not just one person, but an entire version of yourself that never had a chance to exist. It's like you're the key to unlocking a character who's been stuck on the game selection screen of his life. There is also the risk component. Human beings are paradoxical. We seek security, but we are also attracted to danger. His marriage is secure, predictable, stable, and while that's what he said he wanted, a primitive part of him gets mortally bored with such security. You are the danger. You are the calculated risk. You are the emotional roller coaster that makes the blood run faster in your veins. Jung understood that denial and repression never work in the long run. Everything that is repressed eventually finds a way to express itself, usually in destructive ways. This man is trying to suppress something that has already slipped through the box. The genie has already come out of the bottle. And the more he fights against it, the more power he gives to that attraction. You've become bigger than real life precisely because he's trying to push you out of consciousness. And the unconscious always wins this battle. 7. The truth about what he really wants. Here's the part that will completely change your perspective on this whole situation. What this man really wants is not you. At least not you as a real, complex, three-dimensional person, with defects and contradictions. What he desires is an internal experience that he has lost touch with. He wants to feel alive again. He wants to feel desirable, powerful, interesting. He wants to escape from the prison that he himself built. And you became the symbol of all this. But symbols are not realities. What he seeks deep down is reconnection with his own vitality. Over the years, he became anesthetized. First were the dreams he abandoned because they were impractical. Then it was spontaneity that he exchanged for responsibility. Next was the ability to feel intensely, because feeling hurts and it had to work. And now it has become a shell, an efficient robot fulfilling tasks. You represent the antidote to that emotional death. But there's more. This man is running away from himself. He is running away from the person he has become and that he does not respect much. He is running away from the choices he made and that he now questions. He is running away from the mediocrity that he promised himself he would never accept, but ended up accepting. And you are the escape route. You are the exit door of life itself. But no one can run away from themselves. You can change cities, partners, jobs, but you are still you, carrying the same standards, the same wounds, the same emptiness. Jung had an interesting concept about what he called pure eternus, the eternal boy. They are men who never fully mature, who are always looking for the next adventure, the next passion, the next thing that will finally make them feel complete. This married man may be trapped in this archetype. He thinks that the problem is the marriage, it is the routine, it is the life he has built. But the problem is that he has never developed the ability to find depth and meaning in what he already has. Their desire can also be a distorted form of individuation, which is the Jungian process of becoming who they really are. But he is confusing individuation with escapism. Individuation is not abandoning commitments and chasing novelties. It is to dive deeply into oneself, to integrate the fragmented parts, to make peace with the shadow, to mature. But this work is difficult, painful, lonely. It's much easier to fantasize that the solution lies in someone else. There is also the search for validation. Many men measure their worth by their ability to attract women. It's primitive, it's immature, but it's real. If he gets your attention, your interest, maybe even your affection, it proves that he still has value in the market, that he is still desirable, that he is not finished. You have become the mirror where he seeks to see reflected a positive image of himself. Another uncomfortable truth is that he may be looking for a way to sabotage his own life. Some men, when they are deeply unhappy but do not have the courage to make real changes, unconsciously create situations that force changes to happen. If he destroys the marriage through betrayal, the decision was made by him. You don't need to have the courage to end consciously. This man may also be seeking reconnection with his own youth. Remember when you were in your early 20s and anything seemed possible? When every passion was intense and every choice seemed loaded with meaning? He wants that feeling back. He wants to feel that life is still beginning, not ending. He wants to prove to himself that he is still capable of feeling all that intensity. But youth is not something you can regain through someone else. Ultimately, what he really wants may simply be permission to be imperfect, permission to fail, to be weak, to not have all the answers. In marriage, he became the pillar that supports everything. It cannot falter, it cannot crumble. With you, in his fantasy, he can be vulnerable. It can admit fears, doubts, weaknesses. You can take off your armor and breathe. But here's the irony. He could do it at the wedding if he had the guts. The problem is not the wife. The problem is that he never learned to be vulnerable safely. 8. What this attraction reveals about him and about you. We've reached the final point, where everything connects and makes sense in a way that maybe you didn't expect. This intense attraction he feels reveals much more about his psychological state than about his qualities. And it also reveals something important about you and how you interact with the world. Jung believed that nothing in the psyche happens by chance. Every attraction, every repulsion, every strong reaction is telling you something about your own unconscious. First, about him. This inability to resist you shows that he is in deep crisis. Emotionally healthy men, who have done the inner work of personality integration, who are comfortable with who they are not obsessively attracted to women outside of marriage. They may find someone attractive, of course. They can appreciate beauty and intelligence. But they are not paralyzed, they do not lose control. They do not put everything at risk. This disproportionate intensity is a symptom of internal fragmentation. He is probably in what Jung would call the second half of his life without having completed the tasks of the first half. He should be integrated, mature, aware, but it is fragmented, immature, lost. The attraction to you is like a thermometer showing that the fever is high. It's not the cause of the disease, it's the symptom. Illness is existential. It is the lack of connection with one's own center, with one's own purpose, with one's own soul. This also reveals that he never learned how to deal with the shadow. All those parts of himself that he considers unacceptable are now exploding uncontrollably. If he had integrated the shadow gradually, consciously through therapy or deep self-reflection, it would not have this power over him. But he spent decades ignoring everything that didn't fit the image of the perfect man. And now the bill has arrived. The intensity of the attraction also shows emotional immaturity. Mature people know that feelings are temporary, that passion is not love, that infusion passes. But he is reacting like a teenager, completely overwhelmed by the emotion of the moment, unable to have perspective. This suggests that he never really grew emotionally, he just grew older. Now about you. If you find yourself repeatedly in this type of situation, attracting married men on a recurring basis, that's also telling you something. It may be that you have unhealed wounds related to emotional availability. Maybe available men scare you because the possibility of real intimacy is more terrifying than the safe fantasy with someone unattainable. Or maybe you're using these men as a shield. While you're emotionally involved with someone impossible, you don't have to risk building something real with someone available. You don't have to face the vulnerability of a real relationship where you can be rejected for the real person you are, not for the fantasy you created. It is a way of protecting yourself while maintaining the illusion of living. Jung would say that you may also be dealing with your own animus, which is the male counterpart of the anima. The poorly integrated animus makes women feel attracted to unapproachable, powerful married men. It's as if you're projecting onto them qualities that you should be developing in yourself: autonomy, strength, completeness. Instead of becoming whole, you look for half in men who can never give you wholeness because they themselves are fragmented. It can also reveal that you have a complicated relationship with power. Getting the attention of a committed man brings a sense of power, of being special, of being irresistible. It can be addictive because it feeds the ego in a way that available relationships don't. But it is an illusory power, built on his weakness, not on his true strength. This whole situation is a mirror. He sees in you that which he has not integrated into himself. You may be seeing in him what you have not developed in yourself. It's a dance of mutual projections where no one is really seeing the other. They are only seeing ghosts, symbols, representations of their own unmet needs. And as long as there is no awareness of these mechanisms, the pattern will repeat itself with different people but with the same essence. Jung believed that the ultimate goal of psychological life is individuation, to become whole. But you don't become whole through someone else. You become whole by doing the hard work of looking at your own shadows, of integrating your contradictions, of accepting your complexity. This intense attraction between you and this married man is not destiny. It is not true love. It is not a connection of souls. It is an invitation from the universe for both of you to look within and heal that which is broken. The question is whether you will accept the invitation or continue dancing the destructive dance of infinite projections.